This is a story of transformation. The transformation of a building, of individual artists, of a community, and the transformation of a city into an emerging arts center.
It started as a small fire in the church basement.
It was a cold night in November of 1984 when a homeless woman sought refuge in an abandoned church in Charlotte, North Carolina. To keep warm, she piled some chairs onto a small fire. The fire raged out of control. Within hours, one of Charlotte's historic landmarks was nothing but an empty shell. The ruins of the church languished for years. Trees and plants grew where parishioners had once worshipped. Exactly 15 years later, to the day, the story of the church and its transformation is celebrated as a work of art by one of the first resident artists. A community garden has brought a neighborhood together. And the life and work of this artist and many others continue to transform and change. Through vision, generosity, and hard work, the burned-out building has been reborn as an artist community and residency program. With funding from Bank of America and the North Carolina legislature, the property was purchased, and planning began for this new artistic venture. The building itself is very much a part of the story. Built in 1926 as an Associate Reformed Presbyterian church, the Gothic Revival structure was designed by J.M. McMichael, a prominent Charlotte architect who designed the former churches, which now house some of our cultural institutions. And this building, now called the Great Aunt Stella Center. After the fire, all that was left of the structure was the stone and brick masonry. The challenge was to construct a building inside the exterior walls.
There was so much there already.
Mark Fischerow led the design team from FMK Architects.
It was clearly a project that in my mind, any architect in the city or the region for that matter would have killed to have an opportunity to do. You had to think outside the box because there is no real prototype for it. The solutions that we came up with had to be respectful of the existing building. For example, we specifically did not clean the scorch marks off of the brick on the inside of the building because that represented part of the history of the building. Putting steel structure in place, isolating it from the masonry, you couldn't assume anything was plumb or level. It had been there for 80 years. There were all kinds of challenges. It was a great opportunity to sort of stretch our wings on what could be done.
With the design in place, Rogers Builders was hired and construction began. During that time, the organization began to come together.
Definitely too good to be true. I couldn't believe that a community would identify this as a goal and want to serve artists in this way.
Suzanne Fetcher was hired as executive director of this new organization.
It was a combination of challenge, exciting challenge, and opportunity to shape something from the ground up.
We were just basically trying to build this stone by stone or brick by brick.
With construction complete and their mission and staff in place, the first round of resident artists arrived in the fall of 1999. Among them was Marcus Schubert, a photographer from Toronto.
The day we got there, we were given a file on the history of the center, and on the first page, I think I found the project that I wanted to actually engage in, and that was the transformation of this building into an art center and how all that came about.
Chairs burned in uptown Charlotte tonight.
It was November 14th, 1999, exactly 15 years to the day after fire had engulfed the church.
The idea was to celebrate the rebirth of this building as an important place for artists to come and for a community to feel connected to. Heather Malloy, who was the dancer playing the part of the woman who set the fire, was at first situated in front of a small bonfire, and then somehow from that small world became this sort of cosmic world, this sculpture that became much larger than life. Fire is associated with spiritual ascent, the idea of enlightenment. Before it was burned down, there were 500 seats in the church, places where individuals once sat. It only made sense to bring 500 chairs together. And how the chairs became something else. They became heat, smoke, light. How those individuals that are represented by the chairs, the souls, became something else. The idea of creating a phoenix hidden inside the sculpture, which would be revealed as the sculpture progressed. The sculpture itself was a replica of the building, which formed the backdrop for the entire event. In the McColl Center, which was a church, which had a congregation, which came together to create a community of like-minded individuals to try to understand the cosmic truths about what we do here, is now mirrored again in a new form, reborn as a place where there's a community where people come together to contemplate cosmic truths. So there's a whole aspect about the work that has to do with letting go of the past and embracing the future.